Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And, a couple of weeks ago I suggested to my subscribers they consider buying physical gold in the way of Kruger rands to offset any collapse in the rand. And as I was just watching the rand to the US dollar, again there's a huge sell going on the rand. It's now up to 14 Rand 60, over 14 Rand 60 to a US dollar. Yesterday when I spoke about it, it was about 14 Rand 30. So that's a loss of 30 cents in 24 hours. It's not looking good. And this is why. South Africa's outlook has been dealt several heavy blows this week following Eskom's financial results. And the latest unemployment data, which has raised the question, where to from here? South Africa's unemployment rate climbed substantially in quarter two, Stats South Africa said on Tuesday, the 30th of July. The quarterly labour force survey for quarter two 2019 showed that the unemployment rate increased by 1.4 percentage points from 27.6% in the first quarter of 2019 to 29% in the second quarter. Eskom, meanwhile, reported a record loss for the year ended March 2019 of 20.7 billion rand, following years of corruption that has seen the power utilities' debt spiral out of control, fueling rumours that international ratings agency Moody's could downgrade South Africa's sovereign debt to junk status. Analysts had hoped for a turnaround in fortunes following the election of President Cyril Ramaphosa and post the general elections in May. However, the country has been dealt one body blow after another, raising serious questions about its turnaround prospects and timeframe, which seems to get further away as both global and local financial institutions narrow economic growth. The reason why the state's finances finds itself in such a death-defying spiral, according to a chief economist at efficient group Dawie Roodt, is because, especially since 2009, state spending has increased relentlessly at a time when tax collections collapsed, mostly because of a faltering economy. He said, "At this rate of debt increase, it is very clear things will turn out very unhappy very soon." Roodt said an investment note that to fix the problem of collapsing fiscal accounts, a combination of three things needed to happen to stabilize the debt-to-GDP ratio. The first thing is that the economy should preferably start growing at a rate of 6%, at which rate the debt-to-GDP ratio will stabilize. Unfortunately, the ruling elite, or the ANC, seems to be hell-bent on doing even more damage to the economy, with all sorts of silly socialist ideas, like the suggested creation of yet another state bank, a new mandate for the South African Reserve Bank, and the unaffordable National Health Insurance Scheme. Because of this economic growth, believe me, will not save us from the fiscal cliff, he said. A second option is to increase taxes by the equivalent of 5% of GDP, current market price, which is approximately 250 billion rand. For example, VAT needs to increase by more than 11 percentage points to get this kind of money. Can you imagine that? VAT going up by 11% on goods just to break even for the South African economy? For example, VAT needs to increase by more than 11 percentage points to get this kind of money, or personal income taxes need to increase on average by nearly 10 percentage points. This option, Roodt stressed, is irrelevant, as tax increases of this magnitude would have a huge adverse effect on growth, while overburdened taxpayers would likely revolt. Roodt said, preferably, and the only realistic option left, is to cut state spending with a similar amount of 250 billion rand. Percentage-wise, that is a real reduction in state spending of approximately 15 or 20% in nominal terms. Now show me the politician with the clackers to go and give COSATU the good news. COSATU is the union movement, and they represent millions of Africans. But even if we could implement such austerity measures, the initial impact of the economy will be hugely negative. Damned if you do, damned if you don't, the economist said. Roodt also delivered a scathing assessment of President Ramaphosa. Judging from President Ramaphosa's actions so far, he must either be weak, doesn't appreciate the danger in which the South African economy is, or he simply doesn't care, Roodt said. Well, we know that Hippo Eyes has already taken his money offshore. He's got somewhere in Dubai to look after himself after things go bad in South Africa. He's okay. He's looking after number one. Anyway, Roodt continued by saying, I think we have a weak president that simply doesn't have the political capital to implement unpopular structural changes. All that is left for him to do is to use the gutted institutions like the NPA to do the heavy lifting for him. He is playing the long game, but this economy does not have a long time. Even if we can somehow wave a magic wand and get rid of all the corruption and incompetence in the state and state-owned enterprise overnight, the perilous condition of the state's finances will need an extraordinary attempt to save us from further economic collapse, Roodt said. Roodt said that none of his three scenarios will likely prevent the inevitable. Debt will continue to balloon, the economy will falter, poverty and unemployment will keep going up, and those that are responsible for all the trouble will keep on blaming the others for their absurdities. Yep, blame Jan van Riebeck. Yeah, Jan van Riebeck is the cause of all this debt. Yep, absolutely. No question. You just go and ask Julius Malema, Chameleon Malema. Anyway, continuing, Roodt said, by then the only remaining alternative will be to inflate your debt away. But for that to happen, you need to control the South African Reserve Board. And with Lesetja Kanganyho at the helm, that is not going to be easy. But be assured, as we sink further into this debt chaos, the pressure on the South African Reserve Bank will become relentless, and eventually also the South African Reserve Bank will buckle under the pressure. And then inflation. Zimbabwe 2.0, that's what we're talking about. What we must understand, Roodt said, is that no structural adjustment, no new dawn, no fresh start can be taken seriously unless it includes an admittance that there are just too many trying to live off too few. Many tens of thousands of civil servants, including those of state-owned enterprises, are simply not needed. They must go. A very, very harsh assessment of South Africa's future, but I think it's right on the money. I think it's just a matter of time before the economy goes the same way as Zimbabwe. I hope you guys are all prepped. You need to prep, please. And remember, if you have got some rands, consider buying Kruger rands, gold Kruger rands, just to safeguard the value of your money. Please remember to subscribe to be kept informed, ring the bell for updates, and have a great evening.